Are we nearing a global margin call? Japan, of course, is in the news. We'll break it down for you today and why it matters to you in the crypto market. Let's just jump right in. I do want to thank our sponsor, and that is BTCC. This is a place where you guys can get into trades. And the thing about BTCC is it allows you to work both sides. So in volatile times like now, this is the place to go to get your exchange activity going. 10% bonus on your first time deposit just by using our link, along with a whole slew of other benefits. All signups can unlock secret community rewards. You get some extra bonuses. You also get lower trading fees. Use the link down below. Get out there, make your first trade on BTCC, a good place to go. Let's get into a couple of points I want to hit on. The market, though, here as of today is starting to resurrect a little bit. This, of course, is ETH, as we start to see a pretty significant comeback on ETH after hitting around 2,600 and 2,700 here recently. Now ETH trading at almost 3,400 on the day. So keep an eye right now. ETH up 7% this week going into the FOMC. I want to also show something here because this is a big deal. Bank of Japan decision in December. Right now looks like we are going to get an increase. And if you think about the United States of what we're looking at, which is a decrease, and the Bank of Japan saying, nope, we are going to start to unwind this and we're going with an increase in interest. This, of course, changes things pretty dramatically. So is a global margin call coming? How the Bank of Japan, of course, could hike and trigger the next market shock. This is what everybody is watching right now. And there's a few clips I'll get to here in a second because the Bank of Japan's decision happens on December the 18th. So think about that. This week you've got the Fed getting ready to go into, on December 10th, a decision on a quarter basis point rate cut. Now you have 8 days later, 9 days later, the BOJ coming in saying, if we do this, this is what's going to happen. And of course, you can kind of see, if we see a hike, this is the kind of unwind potential that we could see on the carry trade. And this is the problem because most of these carry trades, of course, you know what is being done there. That's being held in terms of U.S. Treasuries. That, of course, puts a lot of pressure on that. I want to go to a clip real quick because this will explain kind of the bear versus the bull case on the Japanese carry trade. Take a look.
Strong chance of this happening, according to Kalshi. Very strong chance. So if it does happen, is this one hike? Does that set up the scenario that you're talking about? Or if there's more hikes, if this is a series of hikes, is that the issue we should be worried about?
I think this is going to be just a series of hikes. And I think a lot of the carry trade has probably washed out last year. There will be more washing out as we continue to lower our interest rates and they continue to raise their interest rates. And I think in reality, I think that's going to be the backdrop to keep rates going much lower here in the U.S.
This could become a giant global margin call. We saw what happened in the margin call with Bitcoin just a few weeks ago. Imagine that on the global scale, right? I mean, that would be, really a bad scenario. That's what you got to watch for, is right. Does this rate fall? And do we see our long-term Treasury yields rise? That would be a concern for me.
So what would be the yield strategy if the yen starts to take a hit? One angle that many people are looking at is what's going on with Sonium. We've been reporting on this for quite some time, but I want to go to this clip on Metaplanet and the yield strategy that might play out here. Take a look.
If I'm a Japanese family and I put my money in the bank, so what kind of yield do I get?
Zero.
You get zero.
I think they're now desperately looking for yield. There's $7 trillion of cash sitting on personal bank accounts. Corporates have another 4 or 5 trillion.
Tell us what you're planning and what you're thinking.
Our version of Strike, it's a perpetual preferred. It pays 4.9% in yen. The goal is to get that listed in Japan early next year. If I share too much with you here, are you going to try to do the same in Japan?
No. Not in the next 12 months. I'll give you a 12-month head start.
All right, so you can see Saylor trying to get into the Japanese market, seeing that the potential for this is pretty significant. That was, of course, the Metaplanet CEO kind of talking about the instruments that would replace what's happening with the yen if we start to see interest rates accrue on the Japanese yen. That most likely that's going to happen. Now, the question is Bitcoin still the play? especially when you think about Wall Street leading in what the rest of the world is doing. Here's a clip that kind of breaks that down. Take a look.
Bryn, you don't own it, but you probably have the most Bitcoin related or crypto exposure on the show.
I think Japan and crypto are related. That unwind creates pressure. I also think the Fed stopping QT is going to be positive. I think MicroStrategy has a complicated balance sheet. I think BMNR from a Ethereum treasury, they have a clean balance sheet. Obviously, they're issuing shares, but they're not doing preferreds or converts. And so I think that this is an opportunity. I bought more Ethereum last week. I just think, especially with Ethereum, which is down quite a bit off its highs, this is when you add to these positions, right?
You're telling people to buy strategy?
No, Ethereum. I was like, I don't understand. MicroStrategy's balance sheet is way too complicated for me to parse through. I've decided to play it with Ethereum and IBET.
Okay, I didn't go to you on it because I didn't know what else there is to say on it.
No, I mean, what else is there to say? The 12-month price target for this stock that trades 182 right now is $473. That's ridiculous.
All right, so you can kind of see the counterbalance between the two strategies. One of those that, of course, you have to look at is the complexity of that trade that trader was talking about is with MicroStrategy and the balance sheet. Are other investors looking at that same thing? Remember, Startail announced this. We did a full video on this. Institutional grade compliance now into a stablecoin in the Sonium ecosystem. This, of course, being in Japan. This is a digital stablecoin that is U.S. based, so the opportunity here for an alternative is real. And I think some of the things you have to consider here, USDC, put your Startail, this is the kind of money they're talking about in terms of earnings. So that's the alternative that's out there. And the question will be, will the Japanese go for something like this, which essentially means that yield is going to be on chain instead of in traditional finance. One thing I want to hit on right here was why Sony chose USD stablecoins over JPY. And the reason is the business model. This, of course, trumps everything they're doing in Japan. Sony targets 30% of overseas sales to U.S. customers. That's a big deal. And don't forget, the PlayStation, one of the biggest gaming consoles out there, eliminating credit card fees. This, again, would be another opportunity for stablecoins to do that. So a global commerce demand on dollar rails coming through stablecoins. And again, this goes back to yields now within the Japanese market, flipping out of the yen. So all of this also pertains to what their tax position has been in Japan. 22% of Japanese investors left crypto due to tax complexity. And of course, all of that has now changed because they have restructured their tax plan. We showed that here on this show, to decrease from what was around 50% down to 20% on a fixed rate tax. This is, of course, going to draw in a lot of their investors previously in crypto back into it in the Japanese market. So here's another thing to look at. Here's Kyo. This, of course, is a platform out there that is now running a campaign to pay you to move your ETH into Sonium. So basically, this is the Japanese trying to get to your Ethereum right now. These are the kind of moves that are taking place. One other note to take a look at, this of course is Cathie Wood that basically put these two guys together. And this is Quantum and of course BMNR, Tom Lee. This of course could be aligning because remember, Cathie Wood is looking to try to enter the Japanese market via ETH. This is exactly what she's doing with BMNR. She's investing in Tom Lee. So interesting bedfellows for sure. Here's Cathie Wood basically saying, hey, we're happy to support Japan's first institutional grade ETH DAT. And you can kind of see the growth that they've had with Quantum Solutions just in a very short period of time, exploding over what we've seen in the past. Just so you kind of know what's going on. This is Japan's first collaboration on DAT staking. So this is another strategy that will start to draw in off of the reverse carry trade if it does in fact fall apart, and most likely it will. And a lot of these investors are going to be looking for yield. This will be possibly one of the spots that this could occur. One other thing that Quantum is doing, which is kind of interesting, they've had a project codenamed Frontier Finance. Basically what it means is it allows them to take corporate cash, ingest this into the ETH ecosystem, paying yield on it. And if you think about that, that's the question that we started off in the front of the video is the MicroStrategy of Japan too complicated where they may go this route as we start to see these yields unwind off of the Japanese yen? They're going to be looking for a home. Now, what does that mean for ETH? Could mean a huge thing for ETH because all of this could start to push heavy into the market. Trump is now holding $7.5 billion of Ethereum. I don't know if this means anything, but of course, you have to consider where World Liberty Finance is right now on the Ethereum ecosystem. Not only that, let's look at this. ETH is now bigger than Visa and MasterCard. Look at the chart here as we're talking about what we're seeing, and we haven't even completed the quarter around stablecoin transfer volume on Ethereum, already surpassing the volume of Q3, still a month left in the quarter of Visa, MasterCard. That is insane because we haven't really seen the unlock yet on where stablecoin is going. I want to go to another clip real quick. I've got two to wrap up here. This one, of course, is Jack Mallers talking about Bitcoin and DeFi. Take a look.
So you want to do brokerage like Coinbase, but strictly Bitcoin?
We're really interested in building credit markets on top of Bitcoin, lending products on top of Bitcoin. We'll come out with them sooner rather than later. I'm not committing to any timelines today. The thing is, our tagline is a Bitcoin company. We're not a stablecoin company. We're not a crypto company. We're not a prediction market company. We see Bitcoin as the forest through the trees. It is the opportunity, and no one's seemingly focused on it. And that's the story of this equity is to focus solely on Bitcoin, deliver value to shareholders through primarily Bitcoin.
Who should buy your stock? Why wouldn't they just buy Bitcoin then?
I agree with that. We do not want the market to think of us and price us as just a treasury asset. That is not us at all. We're going to acquire as much Bitcoin as we possibly can.
All right, so the way I perceive that is Jack is trying to build Bitcoin DeFi without DeFi is the way I perceive that. I guess the market will tell us if this works. We'll see if Mallers and his team are going to be able to pull something out. This is another clip that gets into Cathie Wood talking about what is holding back Bitcoin from exponential growth. Take a look.
Why did we get Tesla right? Because we didn't define it as an auto company. We gave it to three people: a robotics analyst, an energy storage analyst, and an AI analyst. Three analysts collaborating, three platforms feeding each other. We've got three different S-curves at work, right? I'll take you to a higher level than just exponential growth. How about super exponential growth? And that is defined as a company that is growing quickly, but is entering new businesses.
When you break down Cathie's clip, what she's trying to do is get to exponential growth. Okay, as a good investor, you're always looking for those opportunities. What she was comparing to was Tesla. But what she's talking about is Ethereum because it has all of these new business models, AI, what we're going to see on tokenized assets, what we're going to see on private credit, what we're going to see on stablecoins. As you look at the global market overview, you can kind of see just the growth that we are continuing to experience, and it's just getting started. So this is the kind of exponential growth that she's referencing, and I think this is the market going forward. A few other things, if you kind of compare Bitcoin miner revenue fees, this is now down to one of its lowest points in a long time, even though we are continuing to see these. Remember these spikes that we had on these last turns, and this, of course, was in 2017. Then you saw this one right here, which was in 2024. That, of course, was the April high. These are the kind of issues that we are facing. Now, let's not just look there. Also look at the hash rate, also climbing and seeing its first decline since really what we saw back in 2021, which, if you guys remember, that was when China basically said, Bitcoin, no more mining in China. And that, of course, is what happened right there. We're starting to see that kind of pullback currently on Bitcoin hash rate. So not good in general. And then let's go to the Lightning nodes. Lightning nodes continuing to decline here. So this is the question that everybody's asking is, which is the better asset? Right now, I still think ETH is still the better asset to go with. Now, this is only because I'm looking forward 5 years, 10 years. I hear Saylor all the time talk about this, but I feel like Bitcoin is probably going to end up being a store of value, possibly a speculative value that will maybe in some way compare to gold. But all of that, I think if you're looking for growth, I think this is clear as we are seeing so much opportunity here with ETH. All right, guys, you know what to do. Make sure and join our own group, which, of course, is the Bear Market Edge. Very easy to join there. We always leave a link down below, and it's absolutely free. So just click that, join, you're in. Follow me on X, @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on The Paul Barron Show.